and welcome to the second part of our semi-spooktacular, viewers.
You can tell Peter gets into this more than I do.
Oh, Halloween is my favorite time of year, apart from all the other ones. But
That's my favorite time of year, too.
Yeah.
You just have more money than I do.
I don't. Oh, we have to bring that up. You're bringing in the classic roommate dynamic right away. All right, great.
Well, I'm kind of the a-hole of the two of us.
Way to pigeonhole yourself. Okay.
No, it's accurate.
So, last time we talked about a legitimately scary game. And this time we're aiming more towards the, what would you say, the Charlie Brown spectrum of Halloween kind of thing? And more the quirky, funny?
It's horror in terms of the visuals. But
yeah.
Like classic, Hammer horror or something like that. But it's not very scary unless you're a very impressionable Jesus Camp child.
Yeah.
I don't really think that Mr. Bones featuring a cartoony skeleton will unnerve you.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we're reviewing Mr. Bones.
Yes.
Mr. Bones.
Mr. Bones.
Mr. Bones.
Mr. Bones.
A Sega Saturn exclusive. Now, those are two words I don't think you really hear that often.
No, I mean, it had exclusives, and the problem is a lot of them aren't really remembered.
Yeah.
As much as the console is remembered for sinking Sega, so...
Yeah, well, that's another time. That's another review.
Yeah.
But...
Luckily, I don't really think that Mr. Bones had any hand in wrecking the Saturn as its library did.
No, not at all. It's a strange thing. It's one of those games that defies explanation. And here we are trying to explain it.
No, it's pretty easy to explain. It's a mini game. It's like a single player Mario Party. It says that like every single level, minus a few, they all play different and they all have different mechanics.
Yeah.
I also would like to point out that with this, there's no explanation in game of what you're supposed to do.
No, you have to read the manual for that, and even then, it doesn't tell you what buttons you're supposed to press.
Which brings on to the first point of the discussion.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we should talk about the story first, or what were you going to talk about?
Well, gameplay, but yeah, you can introduce the story.
Well, okay, it's a wacko story. The whole thing starts off with this evil mad scientist / vampire called Degulian discovers the secrets of skeletonism, which is the ability to reanimate skeletons.
Fair enough.
This is all in his mission to purge the world of good so that evil can thrive for convoluted reasons.
Well, Saturday morning cartoon villain stuff. You don't have to look too deep into it.
Yeah, but trust him, he is a scientist.
Well,
he points that out several times.
Morality is a simple matter of statistics. A question of luck, of odds, of faith. I am not a gambler. I am a scientist.
Oh, there isn't much to understand. You just sort of roll with it.
Yeah.
But one of the skeletons he resurrects is Mr. Bones.
Didn't I used to have more skin on these bones? Man, you know I got the blues.
Who refers to himself in-game as Mr. Bones.
You better face facts, Mr. Bones. They ain't gonna leave you alone. Some red-eyed devil's gonna make his bones tonight.
A former blues musician turned undead guy.
And the way you can tell he's different is because he has blue eyes.
Yes, as opposed to everyone else who has red eyes.
Yeah.
So remember, kids, color-coordinated evil.
Well, blue is always the good color.
Yeah, that's right.
You can never see red eyes on a good character, especially in the older days.
And it's apropos for a blues musician anyway.
So, going back to the first point that I made, was every level is going to control differently. You're all doing different things within these levels.
Yeah.
And as such, there's not any real documentation before the level starts on what you're supposed to do.
No.
Which kind of brings me to the first point of contention I have with the game.
Yes.
Now, the variety is nice. There's a lot of stuff you can do, but the difficulty is just... I kind of hate to phrase things like a Tumblr user. Just, But there's a lot of sections in the game where the level starts, you die 3 seconds into it, if that.
Oh, yeah.
And then you are booted all the way back to the main menu.
Oh, it's not even that. You get a fun little cutscene of Mr. Bones turning evil and then spinning into the abyss. And this happens every time you die. No lives, no continues, no nothing.
No, it's back to square one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a real good way to kill your enthusiasm to play.
Yeah.
As I kind of found out. Granted, I kept playing the game, and I do want to point out to our viewers that we only really give ourselves about a week or so to beat these games.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little more. But when you're on a schedule, and when you have other stuff to do during your downtime, and you're wrestling with a game that is booting you back to the title screen, only for you to start the level again, and then die, and then repeat the process, it gets a little frustrating.
It would have been worse if I hadn't gone ahead and unlocked all the levels, which is another point.
Well, if that was the case, we never would have gotten to do the review for this time.
Absolutely not.
We would have had to wait till next year.
Yeah, that's another problem the Saturn has nowadays, is that if your little battery inside the system wears out, say goodbye to your internal memory. You need to get a little memory card and shove it in there and copy and paste the file every time.
So that's why we had to do that for Mr. Bones.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to do that with every game for our Saturn because the little battery in the inside is dead.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Now, besides that,
Yeah.
you know, I would like to preface, because I know people are going to take this the wrong way.
Yeah.
I like hard games. I don't mind hard games. You know, I beat Rainbow Six when I was 13, and there are people my age today who can't even get past the first level.
Yeah, you're a lifelong Mega Man fan too. Let's not forget.
Exactly. You know, I beat Doom on Ultra Violence. I like challenges, but there's a difference in challenge and the game just punching you in the head and saying, maybe you should deal with it. Like, no, maybe you should structure yourself a little better.
Yeah, no kidding. This game is kind of schizophrenic in its pacing.
Yeah.
I think it's appropriate to say.
But before all I do is bitch, we should try to cover, like the good points of the game is that every level does something different.
Yeah.
You know, it can be a bad thing, but it can also be a good thing. Because one of the things I like in video games is the anticipation of, I could quit now, but I don't want to because I want to keep going to see what happens next.
Yeah.
And both the story and the gameplay and the levels cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, and this is back in the heyday of full motion video as well.
Yeah.
And while most full motion video games, if you have no idea what they are, I mean, for the most part, congratulations, you missed out on a annoyingly corny part of video game history that is dead-ended spectacularly.
When Sewer Shark and Night Trap were the future of video games. Some of it was good, but the other was like, this is like the lowest of the low-budget sci-fi stuff, just like in general. Mr. Bones doesn't really have that problem because it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yes, it kind of embraces the campiness that kind of embodied the genre to a certain extent.
I mean, actually, there's really only a couple full-motion cutscenes in the game. The rest is just CG rendered.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Only when Degulian is on screen, which is like 3 times?
Yeah,
4
something
maybe?
like that.
It's not very much. And when he meets the blind guitar player in the cabin, Ronnie Montrose, who also helped compose the game's soundtrack and is a very respected blues musician in his own right, which, as you pointed out when I was playing it, is also a Bride of Frankenstein reference.
Yes, absolutely, because when Frankenstein's monster goes into the woods, he meets a blind man, and the blind man teaches him to speak and do a whole bunch of other things. There's actually a lot of like classic horror movie references in this game, with, you know, Degulian himself embodying both Dracula and Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Kind of. And then we got, like, there's a level with the evil shadow monsters that's almost an allusion to the Invisible Man, I think.
Really?
And Degulian himself is experimenting with all sorts of life forms. That's an Island of Dr. Moreau kind of thing. It's a stretch, but...
Yeah, it's classic horror. It's not new horror. I mean, like, despite, like, the dead bodies and stuff, you're not going to run into any Reanimator references.
No.
But, you know, if you're a fan of, like, the 30s type of horror, stuff like that, like, you know, skeleton cartoons or anything, and that's kind of what Mr. Bones is based off of, along with the soundtrack, which is almost completely blues rock.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
As a musician myself, I don't even have to say I'm a musician to appreciate the game's soundtrack, because the game's soundtrack is one of the best parts of the game.
Yeah, and it even goes beyond that, because they did motion capture for the musician when he's doing close-ups on the guitar. You can see Mr. Bones bending the strings and pressing down on the frets.
They motion captured Ronnie Montrose's hands.
That's right.
Had him play guitar, and then that animation was mapped to Mr. Bones. So he's really playing guitar in his scenes, and that's kind of a cool touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
it's full of stuff like that.
Yeah, it kind of runs the gamut of going with the levels of kind of like chill blues to straight up blues rock music, like section like when you're playing guitar and you have to turn the crowd from red to blue.
Yeah, they got the lighters.
To a really weird Pink Floyd kind of part, which is actually one of my favorite levels of the game. It's called Glass Shards, and it's a section where you're jumping over floating glass platforms while this synthesizer pad and a blues guitar kind of noodle around in the background. And there's a vocal track of the character Mr. Bones giving a lecture on how the blues started and how everybody feels it at a level.
She a little baby as soon as he comes out of mama and has the blues. You know, it's not a matter of not having the blues or not knowing, it's a matter of not recognizing, what it is.
We need to point out, this game gets really freaking weird at points. And there's a section where you're rescued by little people, but they capture you, which is a section completely taken out of Gulliver's Travels.
Do I look like a shoe? Get these laces off me.
The atmosphere and the tone are pretty much all over the place, but that kind of solidifies my like of the game. What is that, like, it's a bunch of like very odd, random stuff fused together. But it has this charm to it, which, like, despite the difficulty, you still kind of see what happens next. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not too hard on the game, despite it being at points very frustrating to me. And I noticed when I was playing the game, the first disc was a lot less hectic than the second disc. The second disc, and this is a 2-disc game, which is probably through all the full motion video. But the second disc is a lot worse than the first in terms of difficulty. There's this huge spike, and especially
kind of the same.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't think so.
They're just throwing more crazy stuff at the wall in the second half of the game. The first half is mostly just you walking through woods, collecting your bones, kind of thing. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. The health meter in this game is completely wacko. It's basically
it gives you bones, like on the top right of the screen. That's your health meter, and as you lose your bones, they
literally fall apart.
You lose sections of the letters, and then you need to get them back by rapidly mashing A. Even though that doesn't restore your health.
No, it's
so you lose health and your character's ability to function.
Yeah, another layer of difficulty. Which,
especially in the platforming levels, it can compound failure. Because like several sections of those levels are made a lot easier by having your legs and not just being a rib cage with arms. And so you could fail, lose your legs, get hit again, lose more, and it's a train of failure and game over.
It almost makes me wonder how Degulian expected he was going to take over the world when his army can be taken down by falling rocks and bats and stuff like that.
Birds can take you on, never mind the bats. You fall 20 feet, your legs break off. You wonder how anyone would climb a set of stairs.
Man.
Breaking into dust.
You just jump a little bit when you're on low health and you immediately start falling apart. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. But, that just... I feel that adds to the challenge of the whole thing. And I find, well, it can be unfair at times. Like...
At times?
Yeah, at times. There are some levels that are easier than others.
Well, that's true, but like all I can think about when you say that is the Rebel Assault 2 style underwater cave from hell.
Yeah, you see, I had a much easier time with that than I had other games. I think it varies person to person.
It really does, because, or at the last level when you're flying through the stained glass.
No.
And this is actually one of the worst levels in the game, because you take mandatory damage. In any section, in any game where you take mandatory damage, I just hate. And
you got floaty control to deal with at the same time. And in the game, in the levels prior to that, especially the 5 platforming levels, you have, as you noted, a bit of a wind-up before you actually jump or duck.
And that's another problem I have with the game, is that it's very big on precision platforming at certain points. But Mr. Bones has a jump animation where he'll shoot his arms down and then pop up when he jumps. And that tiny little quarter second, 1/6 of a second, whatever it is, before the animation actually completes and you jump killed me so many times.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating.
You can sort of learn that after a lot of practice, but the cathedral is another thing entirely. Because in the level preceding this, you rescue a T-Rex skeleton, which is pretty sweet.
Which is another frustrating level in and of itself. First time, I had no idea what the hell I was even doing.
Yeah, all you need to do is just hit the little wing nuts that are holding the chains in place. And once you learn the pattern, that's easy enough to get by. But the cathedral, where you're constantly swaying back and forth from a skeleton pterodactyl, you can't do that because you can't control your swing, and the delayed moving to the left and right just
it has its own set of physics, too. Because, your Mr. Bone's being held right here.
Yeah.
And as you move, your legs swing out so far, and as these logs approach you, dead. And it's just... It's one of the worst designed sections of the game.
And you've got no depth perception, and you've got limited health, and it's brutal beyond belief, really.
And this kind of goes into what I thought about the game's creation.
Yeah.
I don't know anything officially how they made the game. As far as I know, there's no official making of or anything like that in the interviews. But it did kind of feel like a game that was kind of lying around in the designer's head before he said to himself, I have some money. I kind of want to make a game on this. Let's do that. And that's a good thing in the sense that you get a lot of very wacky, sections of the game. Like the guitar playing sections. The section where you're playing the role of a comedian trying to stave off an enemy trying to kill you by telling jokes so he backs off.
What's green and sings? Elvis Parsley. What do you call 100 rabbits in a row all hopping backwards? A receding hairline. What did the Zen master say to the hot dog vendor? Make me one with everything.
That's one of my favorite parts of the whole game.
You really don't get any other sections in video games like that.
No.
But that kind of makes sense of the playtesting too, because I don't really think that they were willing to criticize their own ideas at certain points because they wanted to, go far with the wacky stuff. And what if we had this demon skeleton bird escort Mr. Bones through a stained glass hallway?
Yeah.
And they're so caught up on the concept that the actual level design isn't really looked at objectively, and that's why you get these sections where you're flying the stained glass windows, taking damage, while also trying to avoid level hazards with shitty controls.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, guys, this really should have been thought over more, and not just wrapped up in the sense of, we can do anything.
And they couldn't, really. But I think part of that level speaks to what you said, in that they were more focused on the concept, because as you're flying through the windows, it actually tells the story of Degoulian's life.
Yeah, which is actually a cool little nod.
Yeah, makes you wonder why there's a cathedral that is so impossibly long as to have that many stained glass panes, but...
Well, level designs. Yeah. It's like in the first level where there's simultaneously like 50 open graves with red lights inside. It's just one of those things you have to kind of get over.
Classic goofy Halloween-y ghosts coming out that are obviously like Mode 7 2D sprites.
They look like placeholders compared to everything else.
Yeah, I know. It's so different.
Which is one thing to say, because the graphics of the game are really, really good.
Yeah, they stand up pretty well. You were complaining at one point that Mr. Bones kind of suffered from Toy Story-esque plastic-looky textures.
No, not necessarily. I think that the only thing weird with him is the fact that the only thing differing him from the enemies is his eye color. So like in the first level, I mean, it's kind of easy to tell because the enemies are more baked into the background versus you in the center. But it can be kind of disorienting at first to go like, which guy am I? When it's just 3 skeletons and they're all look the same from this angle.
Yeah, there's another point of difference, and that is that he somehow magically gained the ability to have eyebrows and lips on his skull.
Well, yeah, but like not at that draw distance though.
No, it's just a little
talking
weirdness.
Like in-game.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the cutscenes.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, as far as the design goes, it's just typical 90s CGI. I mean, there's really only so many directions you can go with that.
It's bad too, because Mr. Bones himself, I think, would be a lot more memorable if he had some other way to distinguish himself from an ordinary skeleton, apart from his guitar, which you can only use twice in the whole game for gameplay stuff. Yeah, you use it during the rock concert.
It's right on the front cover though, which I don't want to say is misleading because it kind of ties into the whole blues base aspect of the game, but that kind of makes me think that they should have fleshed it out a little more.
You have like a classical 6-string guitar as opposed to an electric guitar if he was a blues musician.
It kind of depends.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of acoustic and electric blues.
I suppose.
But, yeah, it just kind of makes me wish that they fleshed it out a little better as far as the gameplay went.
Yeah.
Instead of this, here's an underwater tunnel. Have fun.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have fun.
It is very strange.
Auto-scrolling levels are just the stupidest thing in platformer games.
Yeah.
I never like them.
They're some of the most difficult parts of this game, the auto-scrollers.
The only one I liked was the one where you're running from the rolling logs. A, because it's not too difficult.
Yeah.
And B, the music kind of makes up for it. But it's still the Zelda where it's, I'm running from things, oh god.
Yeah.
I hope the collision detection in the game was made well enough so I don't fall into an invisible obstacle and die.
That's where the worst aspects of the FMV genre come in on this game, I think.
Yeah.
But the best aspects are definitely reserved for the cutscenes. They're almost like the reward between levels.
Yeah, which is definitely a thing that I can see people wanting to play more of and kind of, I want to say, suffer through it, but kind of put up with a lot of this game's shortcomings, just to see kind of what happens next because it's so bizarre. I can see that because that's exactly how I felt, and I didn't just want to cheat and go to the next level unless I had to. But I could see why that would be a thing that people would want to do. But at the same time, I kind of think that that's a Stockholm syndrome or sunk cost issue, where it's like, I've been playing this for an hour, I've got to get some reward, so let me at least try to beat the level.
Well, it's at that point where I think you would like pass it off to a friend, because I think our best experiences with this game, playing it, was in a group, and that's why I like to call this a tag team game. Whereas if you keep butting your head against the wall, maybe someone else will say, let me try it,
Yeah.
and they will use your experience to power througugh the level.
Doesn't that go for like every game ever though?
Not necessarily.
I mean, it's not really a point in the game's favor. That's a point in your it's a point in the player's favor. I mean, like, multiple people can play Sonic. That doesn't mean that like Sonic's automatically good because you can play with multiple people.
No, I just think it makes the game more enjoyable, and I think that's the way this game ideally should be played.
I mean, maybe, yeah. It's just I don't know.
Unless you're like a real glutton for punishment. It's just
I had to play the game solo.
Yeah, I know.
Where the hell was the attitude of this last week? anyway, but
yeah. Also, back to very quickly on the point of him being a more memorable character. If they just give him a hat, like a blues fedora or something like that, like a straw hat,
just something.
Yeah, anything.
Come on.
Yeah, give the guy a hat. Come on.
But I think as it stands, it's a pretty fun game.
Yeah.
I did enjoy my time with it a lot, but I think on the surface, it's just a little too frustrating for most people for me to completely recommend.
Yep.
I would kind of recommend the game, and this is actually one of the things where I'm kind of bummed we don't have a point scale, because like I'm halfway between recommendation and not recommendation.
Yeah.
It's the first time I feel really evenly split on it. Because I did enjoy the game. It is fun to play when you're good at it. The cutscenes are their own reward because they're so funny and there's so many levels to see and other cool stuff to do. But at the same time, the gameplay can be so frustrating and so lacking in playtesting in certain things that I wouldn't forgive any other game for having these issues. So as a matter of principle, I can't forgive Mr. Bones. I can't forgive System Shock for having the body of the many. I can't forgive this for having the underwater tunnels or the stained glass cathedrals or really anything like that. Or God forbid, the section on ice where the perspective is changed and it doesn't tell you, and that took me 10 tries to even know what the hell I was doing. See, that's what I'm talking about, though. It just whips itself around so quick, you don't have to catch up, and then just back to the title screen.
Yeah, whiplash.
And at that point, I think that a lot of players are innocently going to say, I want to play Sonic, or I want to play something else, or I want to do anything else than play this for the upteenth effing time.
Yeah. Well, I would say that this certainly is not the kind of game which you should immediately run out of your house and buy a Sega Saturn in order to play. If you have one, you should definitely check it out. That's what I would say. But you should expect an awful lot of running headlong into a wall and collecting up your bones again. But in the end, I think you'll thank me for putting you through it.
But why, though? You're not even giving reasons.
Because it has...
Notice how he has to think about this?
Alright, now shut up, will ya? Listen, this was my idea to talk about this game.
That is true.
And I need to articulate why I like it so much. I would say it's because it has the same kind of tone and humor to it shared by the infamous movie Airplane. Which is everybody takes everything seriously, and you don't need to understand everything that's being referenced in order to find it funny. And, well...
Well, it's kind of going like over what I said. It's the charm for you, right?
Yes,
basically?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This game has a lot of charm to it, and it is kind of an auteur project, and as such, it kind of loses its way in terms of the gameplay design and stuff like that. But just give it a chance, and you'll have fun.
It's more of the Deer Hunter. You know, a very good thing with some issues that might prevent you from liking it. It's, in terms of auteur stuff, pardon me for bringing this up, it's not Heaven's Gate, where it's just so mired in its own inability to get anything across and just bogs itself down. No, like, Mr. Bones, it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's very enjoyable. It's just, you must have a lot more patience than I do.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have a lot of patience with video games. I really do. But when it's so eager just to boot me back to, you know, square zero, it's easy to lose that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think the casual player might just get a little caught up in the aggravation of having to do everything all over, then be willing to sit through it and enjoy everything.
Yeah. So for real video game fans who are looking for something completely different than anything they've experienced before, I think this is the kind of game for you.
I don't want to say it's for hardcore gamers, but it is a little over the casual hill.
Yeah, this is no Fruit Ninja.
It's not Fruit Ninja. It's not Sonic.
It's not Mario.
It's not made for everybody, despite the kids and adults rating. They should have.
Yeah, it does have that on there. Wow,
yeah,
how about that?
Yeah. Back before it became, I think,
kids to
early childhood or something.
TS.
But it's not really a casual game at all. But if you do like platformers and if you don't mind the difficulty, I would recommend picking it up. Just be aware of what you're going to get into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it just isn't easy, despite what the everybody can enjoy ESRB rating might insinuate.
Yeah. So now we don't really have any nostalgic attachment to this game, so we can't really review it in terms of goggles on or off. But I suppose we can judge it in the context of what?
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, like, didn't you play when you were a kid? I thought you told me that.
No. My experience with this game is that I was looking for something way out there to enjoy with my Sega Saturn because I was basically had games like Bug and Bug 2,
Clockwork Knight,
and just boring games like that. I was looking for something quirky and exciting, like the Sega Genesis had with like Earthworm Jim and Booger Man.
Yeah.
And this kind of fits that kind of mold.
Well, how long ago was that?
That was around the time I got into video collecting, back in like 2009 or so.
6 years. I mean, this sounds like enough.
Yeah, I suppose, but I think we should view this game in the context of its genre, which is FMV. And is it mired in the era in which it was made, or does it rise above it to become more of a timeless thing?
It's more of a platformer than an FMV.
Yeah,
except when I think FMV,
the platform levels on my hand.
Well, it's also not Night Trap. You have to understand.
That's true.
I mean, for mini games, it's not that bad.
No.
I also can't think of any other mini games besides Mario Party, which Mr. Bones did not make me want to kill anybody, so I guess it has that advantage.
Yeah. Well, there's also Sonic Shuffle, which is a game that would definitely make you want to kill somebody, but less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So what would your closing thoughts on this be?
I would say that this is a game that transcends genre, and that it isn't really a conventional platformer in a way.
Yeah. And
it isn't really a full-motion video game. The characters within the story take it seriously enough, but everything around it is completely crazy.
Yep.
And Mr. Bones is the guy just holding it all together with his laid-back, straight man kind of personality, guiding you through the story. I think this game is going to be looked back upon in future years as like a cult classic.
Well, it's been out for almost 20 years. So
yeah, that's true.
If it takes a few more years for a cult classic, there might be an issue. But I've said my piece. Play it. You might like it. You might not. Just be aware of what you're going to get into.
Yep.
Because it's definitely not a Sonic style. Everybody can pick it up and enjoy it. I think a lot of people actually are really going to effing hate it. But the people who do enjoy it, I think, will enjoy it a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty much it for me.
Oh well. So with that concluded, we can say goodbye to Mr. Bones and Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Woo!
Coffee's cold. I'm not drinking it.